Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono. Hey, Igbo kwenu. Hey, Mwano. Hey, Sotano. Hey, Matano. Hey, Kwesoni. Hey.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk Radio, coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. I am Mazi Oke Okachukwu, and with me in the studio is
Mazi Ejike Obase.
And our other co-host will join us shortly. We welcome you to another program today, and today we'll be talking to some of the old boys of the CKC.
Christ the King College.
Christ the King
Onitsha.
College, Onitsha,
Yes.
who will be having their, is it annual?
Convention and fundraiser.
Annual convention and fundraiser.
Yes.
And they will tell us what that is all about. But also, before we do that, while we're getting ready, this is our Tuesday, our Global Tuesday. So if you've been listening, if you've not been under the rock, you will notice that something huge happened yesterday where the U.S. president met with the North Korean chairman, something that hasn't happened in years, a thawing of a relationship of some sort. So we congratulate the U.S. administration of President Donald Trump on their achievement of creating a relationship, at least on thawing of a relationship and creating a new relationship with the North Koreans. And we are praying and hoping that all the talks and discussions go very well, so that we'll have a more peaceful world. What do you think, Mazi Obasi?
Well, like we've said before, this is a good thing. To the extent that we are going to have some kind of peace in the Korean Peninsula that hopefully will be long-lasting, that is a good thing.
Yes.
I, as with previous discussions, I still worry that we may go in and botch this. It does not augur well when a few hours after you come and make this historic announcement, your major ally in this, the South Koreans,
Yes.
appear to be totally in the dark as to what
happened.
what's going on.
Yes.
That is not a good thing.
So hopefully that doesn't happen again, that they should be included in these talks going on, because I heard the president rattling off the number of people that he's thanking are part of the conversation, and South Korea was part of it,
Yes.
including China. But so I'll pivot from that and continue on the international scenes. Before that date that happened down in Singapore,
Yes.
our president, Donald Trump of the USA, was at the G7 meeting, which he attended very late.
Oh, boy.
Got there very late and left very early. But that wasn't the only news. While he was there, he had a press conference before he left them early, talking about his relationship and actually proceeding to call every of the participants he could think of by their first name to bolster his points, except that after he left, less than 24 hours after he left the conference, he and his administration had to start attacking the Prime Minister of Canada.
Yes, yeah.
What did you think about that?
Well, first of all, who was it that made that very vile statement?
Navarro. No,
yes,
yeah.
Navarro. So he has come out and apologized.
Which is good that he apologized.
And we will take it at face value. But that's the point. Diplomacy has died.
Well, hopefully not completely.
Yeah, well, this and not to take, look, there is a way the civilized world behaves. And there is a reason for that. And I think it is so, it's a throwback to, you see the Senate, the President of the United States is addressing the Senate, and the senator jumps up, Mr. President, you lie.
Right.
These are
decorum.
Such breaches of etiquette and decorum.
Yep.
And it seems like we are just sliding down into what makes us different.
Everybody's got their own. Nobody disagrees peacefully anymore.
Yes.
It's got to be aggressive and fracas.
Yes.
Well, good thing that Navarro is apologized. I'm hoping that they actually go back and retract, because I'm an ordinary citizen. Maybe I don't have the kind of ears they have, but when I listen to Trudeau make his statement, it's nothing different than what he said before.
Well, yes.
And I don't see anything incendiary in what he said.
How can it? You started it.
Not even
we started.
He's basically saying he's having an issue with the language that was used to institute the tariffs.
Yes.
He's saying that if it's national security, how could we be national security risks?
Yes.
It's insulting to Canada to use that.
Yeah.
He's not saying the tariff, he's just saying the statement they're using for. But anyway. Yeah, that's by the way. Oh, so the other thing is, while President Trump was busy trying to get the Korean people to accept peace, the North Korean, Lindsey Graham was actually saying that the Senate should give the president powers to declare war if they don't. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? Are we undermining ourselves on purpose?
I think we are now in an era of schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So everybody, we used to say in those days in Nigeria, now you get your mouth. So everybody just you say whatever comes to you with no filters. No filters anymore, yeah. But it is what it is.
Well, so talking about filters, we're going to filter our conversation today because we are talking to some old boys of CKC, Christ the King College, Onitsha. Yes. And we're talking to two people. I think we got them on the phone, and I'll introduce them. We're talking to Mazi Monwa, who actually attended CKC in class of 76, 1972 to 76. And he actually got to see, he's the second, well, his dad also went to CKC, so.
Second generation.
Second generation alum.
Alum, yes.
Yes. And he has been the president, the secretary, and is currently helping them maintain their web domain. Mazi Monwa has held many professional professorship. How do you say it? Professorship positions. Basically, he's been teaching in colleges and helping colleges out at universities, and he's currently a senior research scientist, and that's for drug metabolism and pharmacokinetics. I am really
pharmacokinetics.
I'm terrible at this thing.
Why don't we just Mr. Imon one day, no.
Sorry, I'm not doing very well.
Don't let my co-host bite his tongue.
Oh man!
With all these, I
gotta go to school after this.
He is not in the medical field, so yes. Actually, Imon is a Chicago stalwart.
He is a very well-known
over
Chicago.
And beyond what he brings in his professional life, and over and above his contributions to CKC, which is, of course, the topic for this evening. Onwa is a crucial member of the Igbo community in Chicago.
Yes, if you live in Chicago and you're only Igbo and you don't know Onwa,
then you don't live in Chicago.
Then you're not only Igbo.
Then you don't live in Chicago. Yeah. So we are very, very happy to have Emma with us tonight. Emma, no.
Hello.
And yes,
somebody said on Sunday in a different forum, please don't dress me in borrowed robes. I'm just Imon.
We have another name, but I shall wait till later.
We'll let you help us with that one. Also on the phone we have Mazi Tony Okoye, who's also a class of 1974. was the vice president and currently is the president of the Chicago Alumni chapter. He also is in healthcare, and I will not try to pronounce things that I am not well suited for. Mazi Tony Okoye, welcome to the program.
Okay, there one or
Yes.
So today we want to talk about CKC and the alum and the conference and what that all means. Before we start, could you help some of us, especially those who were born and raised in the U.S.,
Yes.
understand what where CKC is and what those letters mean?
And its legacy. Yes. So at least a brief bio of the school.
well,
Mr. Perry, you want
second
to go or
generation, Emmanuel, can you,
Yes.
since your father had a head start.
Yeah, he did. He did. So CKC stands for Christ the King College. It's located in Onitsha. Onitsha is the biggest city east of the Niger in Nigeria. And the school was started in 1933 by Irish priests. The first principal was Father Heary, who eventually became the Archbishop of Onitsha, Heary. The school started, like I said, in 1933 and stopped very briefly during the period of the Civil War between 1968 and 1970 and restarted in 1970. And my class was admitted in 1972 and we graduated in 1976. We were one of the lucky ones who spent 1 year and went through 2 classes. So in 1973, the state government in then Eastern Nigeria, East Central State, decided to change the school calendar from a January through December session, from September through June session. And so we went through 2 years in 1 calendar year.
Nice.
CKC, yes, I was going to say that CKC is an all-boys school, but for a
Good.
very short period right after the war, we had girls who were admitted to complete their higher school meaning post-secondary, but not quite college material yet.
So we have female alums.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So, Emma or Tony, can one of you speak to what I would call legacy schools in Eastern Nigeria? Because I know that, for people who may not know the history, mission schools were the bedrock of post-primary education in Nigeria for many, many, many years. And in different parts of the country, you had schools that were institutions. So we can speak of Harvard and Yale and Stanford, in the United States. Our secondary schools in Nigeria were of that caliber. In fact, if you tell me the school you went to, and I will tell you where you probably end up. So today we are dealing with CKC. So what can you say about education in CKC in terms of who went there, who's been there, and what caliber of technocrats, bureaucrats, and whatever that the school has produced over the years?
Well, Emma, I think we can go, we can complement each other as we go. But it goes without saying that CKC, during that era, of course, 1933, there were only a handful of schools in West Africa.
Yes.
So CKC is not only a legacy school, but the reason it was formed, to actually get the indigenous, the Nigerian indigenous boys into leadership positions, in the leadership roles, get us educated so we can, Catholic, give us a strong Catholic education and prepare us for future leadership. So, and it did a great job, because I know when I was a kid, there's a popular saying, I grew up in Jos, that if you act, there's a certain way you act, they say, oh, he acts like he went to CKC. And this is the northern region now. That's how famous those legacy schools, CKC, UMGC, ICB, that's how famous and had institution or representation they were for the communities and the country then. And especially for the Igbos. I think CKC Onitsha helped, it's one of the pillars that helped Igbos, a lot of Igbos be what they are today, because focused on education. Remember in the past, it was education, education, education. So CKC, I think, helped start that legacy for the Igbos.
In other words, these are the schools that, because as we all know, there is a big, the joke around here is that Nigerians and education, that Nigerians put education above all. We know the joke about the man who came home, the boy who came home and ran to his father, "Oh, Dad, I scored 98%. And his father said, where's the other 2%? So it seems to me you're saying that it is these schools that have bred Nigerians to seek excellence in education.
Yes.
That is absolutely correct. Matter of fact, talking about legacy schools,
yes,
our contemporaries back then would be Dennis Memorial Grammar School, Onitsha.
Okay.
That would be CIC, Enugu.
Yeah.
That would be St. Teresa's, Soka.
Yes.
Government College, Umuahia. Government College, Aktipo.
Yes.
Methodist College,
Uzako, yes.
St. Patrick's College, Asaba.
Yes.
And a few others scattered here and there.
Yes.
But speaking of the caliber of people who graduated through CKC and went on to become big and influential people, CKC has on its roll students who eventually became justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. We can count three. Oputa, Aniagalo, and I can't think of the third one now, but we've had three justices of the Supreme Court. The current Chief Justice of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Madi, went to CKC.
Okay.
The current governor of Anambra State went to CKC.
Willie Obiano.
Yes, Willie Obiano.
Yes.
The previous governor of Anambra State, Mr. Peter Obi, went to CKC.
Okay.
The previous governor of River State, Mr. Peter Adele, went to CKC. There is virtually no aspect of the political and educational system in Nigeria that you can find that you will not find a CKC alumnus, either in bureaucracy or in teaching.
Yes. Go ahead, Mazi.
So a lot of people who are listening will wonder why does a secondary school alumnus, what do they do, one, and why does it really matter? Because if you compare them to the secondary alumnus here, all they do here is get together, do what do they call it, the centennial celebration, or do some kind of party and organizing to see where everybody is, but really not. That's not the sense I get with CKC and some of the legacy schools in Nigeria. Could you help us understand what the alumni do and why you get together?
Well,
I can address that because I have been in very close contact with the Alumni Association. Matter of fact, we were formed in 1997. And the reason that we were formed was that two of our old boys went to Nigeria from the United States to just visit. And by some strange coincidence, they decided to go back to CKC and see how the school was. And they met the school in a horrible state of disrepair, decay. Buildings were almost collapsing. Staircases were missing risers. School dormitories where students were sleeping had no windows. Roofs were leaky and rusted and so on. And they took pictures and they came back to the United States and shared among our old boys. And we thought, my goodness, these schools have been where we were trained. We can't let students be trained under this kind of conditions. And so in 1998, we had our first convention in Atlanta, Georgia. And right there, we made a commitment of sending at least $20,000 every year to repair and rebuild CKC. This was in 1998. We were lucky that as we started this process of rebuilding, we started very baby steps by repainting buildings, reinstalling windows and doors and dormitories, re-roofing buildings and stuff. Other old boys started joining forces with us. And matter of fact, at the time that Governor Odili was the governor of River State, he came to visit the school and discovered that the school amphitheater that we used to call Montini Hall had been taken over by the Archbishop of Onitsha for the diocese that was carved out of CKC. So the students had no place to go dancing, go watch movies, do the normal things that you do in a large body of students. So he built a 50 million naira amphitheater for his school. And this was in 1999 or 2000. And the other old boys have been donating massive amounts of money to rebuild the school. And so what we do here is to get our resources together, go back to Nigeria, plow it back into the school, and call other students, other old boys who are still in Nigeria to come match our funds. And it's the magical what transformation we have brought to the school.
Yes.
Wonderful. So I want to understand a little bit more. So is CKC still owned by the mission, or how is it run today? Is it the government? Is it the mission? Do we know?
The state government ran it from 1970, right after the end of the Civil War, up until, I would say, somewhere around 2012, 2013. Peter Obi was the governor of Anambra State at the time, and he decided that the schools were better run in the hands of the missionaries. So he put in place a management agreement with the Archbishop of Onitsha to run CKC Onitsha. The state government still provides staff, still pays staff, but the Archbishop of Onitsha has the sole responsibility of disciplining staff, of ensuring that the school maintains its academic standards, of doing all the little things that go into making a school a great place.
Yes.
And so, technically, the mission owns the school now because they run it, but the state government still has
funds
power over certain things.
Yes.
So here it's akin to a charter school where the funds still come from the state education, but it's run by a third party.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So how about the students? So any changes since? I'll guess, this is my guess only, that when somebody went home in 1997 and found the school in disrepair, that may not have been the only thing, because if the resources are scant, then the quality of education and the students may be suffering too. So assuming that was the case, have you had any marked improvement since the funding started coming back again in 1998?
Mr. Koye, do you want to take this one?
I didn't quite get the question. Can you repeat it just one more time?
So I was thinking that before you discovered that the school was in disrepair, and through then that the students may be suffering up to then, and even the quality of education that they were getting may also be subpar. And I was wondering if you have found any difference since you started helping with the funding and getting
so
the school back to shape.
as we rebuild infrastructure, has it spilled over to academia?
Oh, yes,
that is easy to answer. Yes, I can go ahead. Tony, go ahead and.
Yes.
Oh, no, if you have something to say, go ahead, and I can come back behind you and say what I want.
Okay. Yes. Matter of fact, the simple answer is there has been tremendous correlation between funding and student performance. CKC has been ranked the very best or top 5 secondary schools in Nigeria the last 9 years. And this is something we can verify by just going to Google and typing it in. It's not the very best, it's top 5 in the nation. No, it's not even controversial. We have seen a huge improvement in student performance, in student livelihood, in student participation in the academic environment. It's no longer the same when students would sneak away because the school was not a conducive place for them to learn. These days, they look forward to learning. You can imagine a school that has a 3-story building completely dedicated to computer education. Why would a student want to go with a book when he has a laptop sitting in front of him?
And remember, just to add to you, Mambana just opened, is it the 900 student dormitory last year? The new building that will house about 900 students.
Yes, and then the Chikobi Family Foundation provided seed money of 50 million naira, matched by Tito B, another 50 million naira, to build a science block, 3 stories of physics, chemistry, biology lab, as long as one half of a football field, massive buildings. And the students are making use of these facilities like you can't believe. And I'm not speaking like Trump.
Hugely.
Well,
bigly.
Hugely.
And to add to that, the question you asked about, Emma answered it, and then you think about this, there's a direct correlation between the environment and, the learning ability. Because I remember if you're in a school with all these amenities, first-rate amenities, you don't want to be expelled. So you're forced to conform on your own, because if you misbehave, you'll be expelled, and there are thousands of students in line to take your spot.
yes.
So that kind of becomes a false incentive for students to really sit down and, and knowing that you're you're attending a first-rate secondary school, that makes you also want to.
Yes.
If you're in an environment that is scattered, remember when students were sitting on blocks and blackboards, teachers didn't have checks, you think it's a joke, But when you have all these amenities, suddenly you don't want to leave this school because others don't have what you have.
I think that is wonderful. That is really wonderful. And in a minute, I would like to go to what exactly is happening on Saturday.
Yes, the fundraiser.
But before that, there is something we are kind of touching, but not quite touching. I will preface my diatribe by saying that this radio program, Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it,
from an Igbo perspective.
From an Igbo perspective. So we are looking at the world from the point of view of Ndigbo. And I think something is happening that is a wonderful thing.
A revival of some sort.
Yes, because I remember my first year at University of Nigeria. All the first-year kids would gather. Okay, which school did you go to? Okay, which school did you go to? Let's see how many students of this school were able to pass into university. Of course, at that time, Nsukka was the jam for Ndigbo.
Yes.
And it was a thing of pride to say we had more students admitted to university from my school than from your school. It was boasting. It was a
thing of pride.
Yes, a thing of pride.
Same thing here in the U.S. too.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So now you see these legacy schools produced a crop of top graduates that went on to succeed in all spheres of life.
Yes.
Unfortunately, over the course of, I would say since 1970, the legacy schools were left to rot. And bar none, most of them fell into gross disrepair. What is happening now is that various alumni are picking up the gauntlet and going back to bring those schools back to life. And in the typical Igbo fashion,
yes,
we have now started again the issue of competition.
Yes.
Who does a better job than the other?
Yep.
So as Emma Onwa and Tony Okoye are sitting here and telling you our school produces the best graduates in Nigeria, bar none, it becomes an incentive for government college Umahia to say, boy, why is our school not there? CIC Enugu, why are we not there? DMGS, your sister school in Onitsha. Absolutely. Yep. So I think that this is a wonderful thing, and I want to give a shout out to all those products of these schools who have come back to support their alumni, who have come back to join their alumni associations to support this school and bring them back to life. So starting with our two guests, yes, Tony and Emma, thank you very much for what you're doing, because this is actually Onunagari Iboji.
Yep. By
this action. Having gotten that out the way, what is happening on Saturday?
Actually, the date is July 14th.
Yes.
So it's a Saturday, but it's not.
Not this Saturday. It is. Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes, July 14th.
Okay.
What we're doing is our alumni from various parts of the United States and some from Nigeria will be here in Chicago to join us as we try to raise more funds. Remember, I told you the target we had in 1998 was $20,000. We've gone way beyond $20,000 every year now. So we need a whole lot of money to complete the projects we have going on in CKC. And just an additional piece of information to show you how motivated our boys are. We encourage anyone who goes home to Nigeria, maybe for Christmas or for Easter or for just a personal visit, to spend some time to go to Onitsha and visit the school. We usually do not announce when we're coming. So our boys walk in, they announce themselves at the gate, they are led into the principal's office, and they assess right there and then without preparations how the school is doing. And I tell you, everyone comes home and says they are using our money judiciously. Of course, the principal is a priest. He's not there to make money for himself. He's there to use every single penny you spend to rebuild the school and make the students have and enjoy a better educational facility.
Yes. Very good.
That is good. So you said that the money has grown way up, at least the fundraising goal has gone way up. Do you have an amount, or are you saying the sky is the limit?
We are looking at $50,000, and we know that you and our supporters in Chicago will come to help us get $50,000. And I'm saying if we end up with $49,990, the national president will send us back and say, go get that $1 extra.
The typical Igbo fashion. What happened to the last $1?
What happened to that 2%?
Yes.
So you say are you now saying that you're throwing this invitation open to everybody? Is it just in Chicagoland area? Suppose people want to fly in from New York that didn't go to CKC. Are they barred?
Well, everybody's support is needed, you know. If anybody wants to fly in from New York, all they have to do, come here, man, we have set up an accommodation.
Okay.
You know, give them the links to the hotels, you know, where they can, you know, everybody's money is welcome. You know,
is there a website for more information?
We do have a website. It's ckconitsha.usa.net.
It's okay. So for our listener, it's C as in Christ, K as in King, and C again as in Christ. Onitsha is spelled ONITSHA .net.
USA.
Oh, USA. So CKCONITSHA USA.net.
And if perchance you are not going to be able to attend and you feel touched by this interview tonight, I am sure if you go to the website, there will be a link that allows you to make a donation.
And we have the link up. We could see it is a not-for-profit, which means all your monies are tax deductible.
There you go.
That is correct.
There you go.
That is correct. And just to amplify something that Ejike had said, if someone decides to fly from New York because they heard about this convention and they want to come help us, we do have an informal program. We adopt students from other colleges to become
honorary CKC.
honorary CKC for one night only.
Okay.
But it's something. It's a feeling that you go home with and you'll say, "Wow, that felt good."
Okay.
Well, I mean, I would love to become honorary, but my brother won't let me because he went to DMGS. So no. Well, we have our other co-host, Mazio Delegate, in the studio. Say hello to our listeners.
They will know. Yeah, I've been paying attention to the conversation, and it's quite exciting. Actually, I grew up in Onitsha, and of course, the healthy rivalry between the DMGS and CKC.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's good to see that spirit coming back in terms of education.
Positive competition.
Yes,
And it's actually it's a good look on the college that the alums are coming back to help because they found. I mean, there must be something that they took away from the university, from the school,
yes, from the
that's
secondary
making them
school.
want to get it back to
Yes.
the other students.
I know that you guys had earlier started with it. I'm curious about the history, the founding. Who was the founding principal for CKC?
Hiri.
Oh, it was Hiri.
Archbishop Hiri.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Charles Hiri. Yes.
Charles Hiri.
Yes, he's one of the Spiritans. Again, this goes back to telling the story of the Kali mission in Anibo.
Yes.
Because up until 1854 was when the Anglican Church came.
Right.
1885 was the arrival of Father Luz, who is a Holy Ghost Spiritan from Gabon.
Yes.
And so they settled in Onitsha, and actually that led to not just the planting of the churches, but also they invested heavily in education. So do you see the continuation of that legacy within Anibo?
In terms of Catholics and education?
In terms of education, period. Any of you can pick up the question.
It's kind of difficult now to judge how successful the churches have been in establishing new schools. I know that they face huge competition from for-profit entrepreneurs who set up schools and charge an arm and two legs. But by and large, the churches have been extremely successful where they exist in imparting knowledge and education on their students. As a matter of fact, CKC Onitsha was the base from which St. Charles Teacher Training College was spun off from. And All Hallows Seminary came out of CKC too. So the church just didn't stop with CKC. They branched out into, oh, you want to be a priest? Fine, we'll set up an institution where you can become a priest. You want to be a teacher? Here's the place you can go to once you get out of CKC. Go learn to be a teacher. So the Catholic Church, and I believe the Anglican Church too, who established the DMGS and other schools, have been very successful in bringing education, quality education to Anibo.
Actually, I just want to, since Mazio Deluga opened this door, I want to point something out. Mission schools, which more to a large extent preceded the government schools, had an equal opportunity educational program. In other words, it didn't matter how rich or poor you were afforded the chance to obtain a good, solid education. In fact, if you have listened to some of the speeches the current president of Ohaneze Nnewodo likes to make, he said, I was in the same class as my father's driver. And my father would use that as an example. If you're going to be a fulefu and have my driver's son beat you in class, but it speaks to a deeper sense of equity that we had in Alibo. that it didn't matter your financial or whatever background you came from. If you applied yourself, there was a pathway to success. Contrast that with some of the private schools that you have nowadays, even those that are run by the newfound religious institutions that we have all over Nigeria. Can you afford? How many people can afford to have their children go to quote-unquote private school in Nigeria? And that is why it is, in my opinion, essential, in fact crucial, that alumni of the old institutions that built Alibo, that allowed Ndi Igbo to compete very effectively in Nigeria and beyond, that the alumni try very hard to restore these schools while keeping it open to anybody who has a brain and a willingness to learn.
So I have a question actually that goes against what you're asking. And
okay.
So what you're saying. And the question I have is, what about the alumni who's looking at this and going, well, when I went to school, the alumni didn't pay for it. The government had a chance to take care of these schools. They didn't. Now the missions has got them. Why would I give my hard-earned money to these people who have not
done what have you done for me lately?
Right. What have they done to keep up the school? Why am I funding a school that the government or the mission should be funding? What's the answer to those people?
Can I cut in here?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Yeah, to add to what Dr. Obazi just said about the education, I think one of the most important things about the missionary education and the old-time education is the missionaries not only train you academically, they train the body, the soul, and the whole person. If you look at the motto for CKC, Bonitas, Disciplina, Ciencia, goodness, knowledge, and discipline. That's some of the things missing from these new private schools that you mentioned. You know, they're into the training people. They're not adding that character to these students because they're from the upper echelon. So they're too important to mix with the bottom. So they're not imparting on them, you know, that goodness and discipline that we had during our time. And for the question why those from people say, hey, they didn't pay for my education, philanthropy is not what I received, it's what I'm given. You know, if you receive a little, you magnify that. And if you look at our education, Ndi Igbo as a whole, these secondary schools started us on the path to what we are today. You know, they made the Igbo man. My father used to say, if the old Igbo parents that didn't go to school, they made sure their ambition is that their kids go to school. You know, and it's coming back because I was listening to what is this former senator, the guy that makes a lot of sense. I was watching one of his videos. I think it's from the.
You mean the TV?
Ben Bruce?
Ben Bruce, the TV mogul.
Yeah, he was quoting statistics, and he was saying how the Igbo states, you know, before the boys dropped out of school to go do trading, how suddenly the Igbo states are graduating more boys than any other states, you know. So I think we are on the right path, if you ask me.
Okay.
Again, part of the legacy of that our fathers left us is the idea of a communal support for
Community
education.
first, yep.
Yes.
So people did not go to school because their parents only could afford to send them to school, but because the community made an investment
Yes.
for them to go to school. So I will ask every one of our listeners, whether you're a Nigerian, non-Nigerian, you went to CKC, you didn't go to CKC, support this cause, because what you're trying to do is to actually liberate minds.
Yes.
It's interesting, though, that I think it was Mazi Tony that was talking about the fact that these schools came before the the government schools.
Yes.
It was part of the British colonial strategy not to educate our people beyond higher elementary, which is standard 6.
Yes.
And then they built teacher training schools. Then right from standard 6, you went to teacher training, or you went to PNT or any of the
civil service.
You served in the colonial.
As a lower echelon civil servant.
So it was actually the church that opened up the hatch of escape for the Igbo to break out of the colonial strategy of
containment.
Yes. Because prior to the building of DMGS, then followed quickly by CKC, there were no private schools other than the King's College and Queen's College, Lagos. High schools, secondary schools. So this school, CKC, has a lot of legacy to it.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of story to it, which I believe that our people should look beyond, whether they went to CKC or not, but to understand that these are some of the schools that actually made us who we are. And if we had that same attitude, then we will be able to rebuild an Igbo from the ground up.
Absolutely.
That's actually where I was going with my question, which is a lot of people who are sitting and thinking, well, why am I giving money to this? You are not giving money to anything. The reverse is true also. If you decide that you're going to be the only wealthy man around and everybody else around you is going to be left to their own devices because they can't make the amount of money you're making, well, they are either going to be a profit to you or a nuisance to you. So the better way to change that story is to make sure that you could have what did Ronald Reagan say? Or is it Bush? The rising tide that
lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Well,
so if you take the little that you have and put it together in the purse with people who bring the little that they have or the larger that they have, together you could actually get this tide rising to lift all boats.
So for our guests, so what do you tell our listeners again? Remind them how they can help.
They can either come join us on July 14th at Oakland Hilton Hotel. That's where the convention banquet dinner will be taking place. Or they can visit our website and see the links through which they can donate. Or, and it might sound strange to most people, or they can just return to their own schools and help rebuild it. Touch a life elsewhere. Touch a life that is not just yours or your immediate family. That's how we started. Many of us will never send our children to CKC or Onitsha, but we're doing it because it feels good to have those kids have a chance to graduate into whatever they want to be.
Well, you look at it this way: if the missionaries had not invested, a lot of our parents would not have had an education. If our parents had not had the opportunity, many of us would not be where we are today.
And the kid you sent to secondary school at CKC might end up being your son-in-law.
Or,
who knows?
better still, become the president of Nigeria.
Yep.
In which case, you at least know that this man has a sound education. Because we, especially we of the African diaspora, understand very clearly in stark terms the consequences of having half-baked people in positions of leadership. The results are glaring all across Nigeria, all across Africa. So anyway, Mazi Imonwa, Mazi Tony Okoye, it's been a wonderful hour with you too. I encourage, like Mazi Odeluga said, everybody who is listening, if you can, come. If you cannot come, try and give, even if it's, your widow's mite. Because at the end of the day, little drops of water make a mighty ocean.
And as we come to the end of this hour, Mazi Onwa, any words that you want to leave with our listeners?
Give as much as you can. If you can't give to CKC, go back to your alumni association. Help them build up the school that you went to. It will help our society at large. Thank you.
Amazi Tony.
Well, I'll say the same thing. You check Matador or some of our Igbo forums and try to attend. And any way you can help at home, because it's one thing to sit in the U.S. in your, nice, comfortable house and car and complain about the government. Is one little gesture can can move into more gestures and more gestures. So don't think that any gesture you're making, like Emma said here, your old school or anybody at home, give scholarships at home. That is a start.
And could you help me? Could you remind us what those the motto of CKC is one more time?
Unitas, disciplina, ciencia, goodness, knowledge, and discipline.
And on that note, I'll thank you both for being wonderful guests and for helping us learn more. And we wish you great luck and a lot of money, more than $50,000, maybe a double of that.
A double of that would be nice, yes.
On July 14th at the Oakland Hilton for those who can be able to attend. And if you're not able to attend but you are touched and you want to give, go to their website. Is ckconitshausa.net, and all your gifts are tax deductible, and your gifts are really appreciated.
And you will be bounteously rewarded.
Thank you.
After all, we talk about church. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Right. And to our listeners, you're listening to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. We'll take a minute break and we will be right back.
WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. Follow us at Facebook.com/WGHC 98.3 FM to watch all of our live streams. iPhone users can download our WGHC 98.3 FM app in the App Store. All other users can download the TuneIn Radio app or visit tunein.com. You can also listen by phone. Dial 1-563-999-3221. Visit our website at www.wghcfm.org.
Hey, WGHC 98.3 FM would like to help you out. If you have a business or an event you would like to have us advertise for you, then we have some great packages for you to check out. Some of the packages include sponsored events, 30 to 60-second ads, and more. We have advertising space on our shows available starting at $200 and up. Send us an email at 98.3fmwghc@gmail.com to get more info. Also on our Facebook page at WGHC 98.3 FM. Don't forget to follow and like our page.
Mills Real Agents has been serving the northern Chicagoland and surrounding suburbs for almost 30 years. If you're relocating your family from around the world, looking for that perfect home in your new land, or looking for that perfect storefront to achieve the American dream, Mills Realty is here to help. We take the time to get to know our clients and find the properties that best fit their needs and lifestyles. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a property, you can contact us at 773-764-9547. Visit our office at 2640 West 2 in Chicago, Illinois, or look us up at millsreal.com. WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. If you're enjoying the show, you can show it by donating as little as $1 a day. WGHC is a nonprofit organization, and your donations are what keep us up and running. It's easy. Just visit our website at www.wghcfm.org. All donations are tax deductible. Visit our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at WGHC 98.3 FM.
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM.
Why yo, but we are nothing's friend from here the first time. Want to trust in sense. Why yo, get anything you like. Long as you are right, then me alright. Me know you matter, so I'm alive.
Your voice, your music.
Whether me in a skirt or jeans or short shorts, head race when me walk past. Me feel the eyes, believe the eye. Me love the lights, me do it spite.
Baby, pana, they say you like you all I got you all baby, pana. Anywhere that you go, I can follow you to go, baby.
You wanna go?
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM.
New level, new level. New level, new level. New level, new level. I them can turn in a rebel.
Your voice, your music, your station. WGHC 98.3 FM.
Welcome back to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM. And you're listening to Mazi Keko Deloga, Mazi Ejikobasi, and Mazi Okeo Kachku. If you have been listening to us since the beginning, we were talking to a couple of old boys. That's what we call them, the alumni boys, because it's an all-boys school, or at least was for is, but changed for a little while, of CKC, Christ the King College, Onitsha. And they were talking about their fundraiser coming up on July 14th, 2018 at Oakland Hilton in Chicago. And we also talked about what those legacy schools, legacy secondary school, mean to a lot of people in that came from the East, because they were the schools that we had by the missions even before the government started their schools. And also those schools were very, very great with regards to education, in educating not just for the formal education, but also educating the mind, the spirit, the soul, the full body. So a lot of the products of those schools, legacy schools, end up with a lot of, do very well in their life and also in public life and in public support. So we have a lot of governors, like the callers that we talked about, mentioned, a lot of justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, and people of all works and profession inside and outside Nigeria who went to these legacy schools, CKC being one of the first. So from what we heard, so we talked about the condition of the school before the alumni took it over and helped nurse it back to health. But that's not the only, it's not a single story. It's a story of many of these schools since after the Nigerian Biafran Civil War, 1970, until some of the alumni got hold of it. Or some of them actually, maybe the alumni hasn't actually formed. So,
yeah, I mean, and that is a story by itself.
Yeah. Because
it was not until late that I began to understand really what happened. You see, prior to the Nigeria-Biafra War, most of the schools were either run by churches as part of their mission, or were private. And so you had different cadre of schools. You know, schools that are the top echelon. Then, of course, you had community schools. Again, some of them were built by the local churches. Yeah. And then you have private schools, commercial schools, and then other career-oriented schools. And there were very few government schools, like Government College Omar here, Government College Afipo, and I think those were actually the two in Eastern region. There were, I think there's maybe another one in the Calabar or Rivers area. Now, at the end of the Civil War, because the churches were so devastated, remember, churches don't have, they don't sell products, or they don't have services they provide.
Right.
It is the people that will contribute money that will pay for.
That sustains the church.
That sustains the work of the church.
Offerings, right.
So you had the families that had no money because Gowan and his cronies had succeeded in impoverishing our parents, giving them $20,
regardless of what you
£20 for everything that whatever was in their bank account before the crisis, or what they left in the banks in Nigeria. And so the families didn't have money. The church, of course, didn't have money. The state was struggling. And so literally the churches came to the government of Obama and begged him to take over the schools. Now, to take over the schools, the idea was, okay, there are so many of the schools were used as hospitals. Some of them were refugee camps and were bombed and destroyed by the Nigerian Federal Forces. Yeah. So there was a lot of infrastructure decay that needed to be fixed. And there was, of course, money that needed to be poured in and to pay for teachers and to re-equip the schools. So since they didn't have the funds, they went to the government. Big mistake. Because it's now when the schools got taken over by the government, that was when mismanagement not only began.
He who pays the piper calls
and then the
tune.
curriculum and some of the policy.
The destruction of education.
So, but it used to be before that every local parish determined what their students studied, because the people who managed the school were the people who went to the church. And of course, there was healthy competition among these schools. So everybody was trying to produce not just the best students academically, but the best behaved. Yes. Because there were reputations at stake. And so those were part of the things that we lost. And one would have thought that the Eastern region, the former Eastern region government would have understood what was at stake and, found ways to move funds to these schools, then got them back into those who original proprietors.
Right.
It was not until maybe 4 or 5 years ago that Governor Peter Obi now turned over the schools back to the missions, literally to rebuild the infrastructure, while the government continues to pay for the teachers.
2012.
Yes, 2012. That's right. So that actually is a healthy thing.
But I'll point out that it was of the Igbo states that I would say east of the Niger.
Yes.
It's only Anambra that has globally made that kind of definite change to enhance education.
Yes.
I don't think the other Igbo states have followed suit.
They should.
And that is so actually I see it as a very strong positive that alumni are beginning to come back and fight for that space.
Yes.
Because you see, what has happened is the government holds the purse strings, and where the government is lackadaisical, things decay. If you go and look at the condition, the infrastructure in many of these schools in 1970, right after the Civil War,
yes,
and look at these same schools today, 50 years later,
yes,
then you begin to ask yourself, has there been a government in this land? Because the reality is, unfortunately, the pedestal on which Ndi Igbo placed education was allowed to decay. If you think about the fact that communities would come together, pool money to send one person to London, and nobody cared that when he comes back, I will never get my money back. It was understood that
it was an investment in a
community. It was an investment in your community.
Yes.
And like I say again, the things that are very peculiar to Ndi Igbo, if this community has sent somebody and he comes back as a lawyer, hey, every single other community will want to send somebody to get their own lawyer.
That's right.
That is the Igbo way. So, now that the alumni, and I am very happy with what these two gentlemen told us, because if they can actually, the school, CKC, can begin to blare it on the loudspeaker. CKC is now the best school in, forget Nigeria, in Eastern Nigeria. I promise you, within 5 years, there will be 15 CKCs.
Yeah, because, the interesting thing that the emphasis shifted.
Yes.
Away from building the whole person.
Yes.
Like Mazi
Okoye said.
To producing children who have passed exams or obtained certificates.
Yeah.
So that's where you saw even some of the schools indicted for allowing exam malpractices.
Absolutely.
And teachers have been caught in corrupt practices involving examinations, some of the standardized exam. And so I think it is important and it is crucial now that the schools are back in the hands of the original proprietors, or where their parents or private individuals are vested now in educating our children, to make sure that we create proper balance, in value system,
morality.
That's right.
These things need to come back because they are part of educating the whole person.
That's right. Because I can't imagine in my time.
Yes.
My father hearing that I was involved in any kind of exam malpractice. You'll be skinned alive. So again, or even the principal of the school, by the time you get to the class 5 to take your West African school certificate, he already knows the kind of result based on the mock exam that he will be getting.
Yes.
And so you see the teachers are investing in the students, the leadership of the whole school is investing in the teachers, and the children are being moved. And even some of the people so-called, they didn't do well, they left the school with GCE. I knew people that left our school with GCE who are doing very, very well today. It's not the certificate. They didn't get grade 1 distinction or grade 2 or 3, but they applied themselves, but based on the environment and the
building blocks, that were supplied to them in those schools.
And most of them went on to become real successful academically. In the universities and colleges. Some of them are professors.
That's buttressing the point that Mazio Koya made, because it wasn't about just the academics. It was about the full person.
Yes.
So there was also an understanding that maybe academics to the highest level is not for everyone, that there are people who are gifted differently.
Yeah.
And educating them on what they need to do or who they need to be when they leave with whatever they got.
Yes.
Now, that's what I think is missing in some of the education that happens today. Because there's a whole lot of emphasis on the academics, which is why there is this exam malpractice.
Test
taking.
Yes,
so somebody is studying just to pass the test, or somebody is stealing to pass the test. So you pass the test and you move all the way through to the end of whatever the highest education that you attain is. And when you stand before a real life test, then the person fails miserably because there is nothing in there. Yeah. They've just managed to either steal through or learn how to take the test.
Incidentally, we are talking about schools in Nigeria. Let me point out that this is the same discussion that is being held in Chicago public schools. Because the question has arisen, are we training our children to be able to score well on the ISATs and all these tests that are supposed to quantify knowledge, and a lot of times the schools and the school systems forge the results to make themselves look better.
Yes.
Are we really
educating
our children?
Yes.
Who is fooling who?
That was part of the criticisms of the No Child Left Behind policy, that it was producing the wrong behavior, where the schools were trying to get better results so that they will get to the money. I don't know what Obama Institute did. I don't know. I mean,
no, he had a challenge for schools to find creative ideas and innovative ways to actually educate the schools. But then the other thing was the Common Core.
Isn't that what they call it?
Yes, the idea of the Common Core was to create a national standardized curriculum that will allow every, administrators or educationists to be able to compare the performance of a third grade child across the U.S. Because what was happening was every school district had a different curriculum,
so
had a different.
You were doing well in your district.
In your district. Yeah. So we don't know whether you know the same math. If you saw a third grader, do they know everything?
A third grader in another district.
So nobody knows what should a third grader know in math.
Right.
At least baseline.
Yes.
Which is a great idea. But again, those who didn't like that felt that it was too much federal intervention.
Well, yes.
But really, what he was trying to do, and I understood his idea, is where he was going with
Annie
that.
Johnson is
that the best thing to do is to say, okay, this is the standard for every. So if you saw a third grader
raising a standard, basically
in Connecticut, this is the same thing that the child in Illinois is.
Southside
so if you move from any state to any state and you're in third grade, we wouldn't assume, we will know based on common core.
This is your level
now,
of knowledge.
That does not stop any district from adding other subjects.
Right,
but again, the core curriculum is what the feds will put money into. So again, because the federal government really doesn't have influence in education other than through its mandates or some of the things that
funding.
Or funding, yeah. Yes. So if it's a federal program, you get the money. But education is an equalizer.
Yes.
And so if you're listening to us,
the right type of education.
Yes.
Yes. Well, when we say education, we mean
real education. We mean real education, and that is one of the things that is lacking in our community. Yes. If you look at the way education is funded in our city, it is a shame that the kid who grew up in a different within the same area,
have
but different neighborhoods,
or have the school open, but the teacher quality and
but you know, you hit the nail on the head. So we started with Nigeria.
Yes.
And we made the point that regardless of your background,
yes,
if you had the
desire
and the ability,
yes,
the door was open for you.
Yes.
Let me give you a second example. Do you know that there was an article recently published that says that probably the best science program in the world is the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT.
Yeah.
They say the education you get there provides you probably a better grasp of technology and new science than you will get even here in the United States. Yes, and I was just reading that article. Now, I don't want to go into the politics of this, but I think the bigger issue is even the big universities are beginning to understand. So schools like Harvard, schools like Yale are beginning to say, if you have a certain degree of income,
yes,
but you are academically sound, we will give you a full ride.
Yes.
Because it is the understanding that money does not necessarily spell success. That I can come into a school and pay full fare does not make me a smart person.
Yes.
So you take that back into Chicago. We have kids languishing in the south side and the west side of Chicago. They have been written off. Yes. Why? Because their parents are socioeconomically unable to fund the programs that suburban kids enjoy.
Get for free.
And therefore, it is assumed that these are all dumb kids.
No, you're talking. There was a New York Times article. I don't know. I've forgotten who the author is, but was also making the point that was making that even middle class children are not able to attain middle class status. I mean, for black families, middle class black families are unable to attain middle class life. And one of the reasons that they adduced was that because for most black families to come into middle class, they leverage a lot of debt.
Yes.
That's one. Two is that they seem to live in neighborhoods with poor schools.
Yes.
So their children do not have the benefit of sound education.
Yes.
And so then they don't get into the right schools. And of course, some of those schools have places from where employers hire.
Absolutely.
And so if you didn't get to the right regional school or national school and you don't have those same opportunities, then that's when wealth is not being created for the next generation. Now, this is actually separate and equal.
Well, separate is
and
never equal.
unequal.
Yeah.
Separate and unequal.
Separate is never equal.
Yeah.
Never, no. But there was a time when we were arguing that,
Yes.
and they said it's separate but equal. So that was, of course, the whole ruling with the Brown and Board of Education.
Yes.
That there was educational segregation. So what you have now is a different kind of segregation.
Yes.
Neighbor, property tax,
income level segregation.
property tax or income level determines the quality of the education. So it used to be that people who moved to the suburbs had good education because the schools were solid, because they had good tax bases. And so the parents don't have to send their kids to private school. Now, since I would say, the movement,
the white flight,
and then the blacking of
the blackening of some of the suburbs, the coloring of some of the suburbs.
Good.
Yes.
I think it's a better word.
Yes.
The coloring.
Because it's not just black, the flavoring. Yes.
That's right. It's black and brown.
Yes.
Now the suburbs are now a den of failing schools, and that is actually the travesty. And actually, is actually the
well. But the other thing is there's a nuance to it, right? Because it's not just you don't go into every suburb and see that, even in the city. But it's in some pockets the how you couch it is charter school versus public school.
Now,
and then the charter schools do very well, but the public schools don't. And why is that?
No, the charter schools, we can come
with
to
a
that,
lottery
but,
system.
You see, but let's go to the suburbs.
Yes.
In most of the southern suburbs, I can say, taxes are very high. The average home maybe pays between $6,000 to sometimes $7,500. Yet, the schools are not performing well, so you find parents still sending their children to Chicago parochial schools, or even some of the suburban parochial schools. So they're going to private education, so the is double taxation.
Because
so
you're going to pay for the
they're paying about 10
school.
grand, they're paying 8
Yes.
grand, they're paying 7 grand to send their kids to school. Now think about what that does to that family and the wealth creation. And you're talking about elementary education. You're not talking about elementary and high school.
This is
You're not
elementary.
talking about college.
Yes.
Because
college you still have to pay for it.
No. So now the point is that kid is going to come out of college with debt automatically because all the money,
you've given all the money,
all
to
the
elementary
resources were spent on getting you to college. Yes.
Now, with the politics of the charter schools,
Yes.
of course, the charter schools scheme the best out of the public schools.
Yes.
And then, of course, the way they don't do it openly, but everybody can go to. You can take your money from the public school
and move it to
and
the
go
charter
to the
school.
charter school. Now, when you get to the charter school, if you sneeze, you're kicked out.
Well, even before you sneeze, there's a lottery system, right? So
no, I mean those are magnet schools in
Okay.
Chicago that do the lottery, but charter schools they don't have.
anybody could go
You
to
could
charter
go
school.
so long as they have an opportunity and you test in. But the point is that the discipline is strict and they have so much rule that kind of like
if the discipline is strict, is it uniform?
that's a coded way of saying
this is straight talk.
Straight
talk.
They're trying to
put everything
deselect.
on the table.
That's right.
Yes, because at the end of the
It's
day,
the same as the justice system that we know.
well, at the end of the day, the reality is we do ourselves a big disfavor.
Yes.
You cannot all be CEOs. If you are the CEO of a company, you need smart people to help you run your company. When you have killed talent in your country, it doesn't matter how good you are as the CEO, your company is going to fail. And we are in a state of persistent global competition.
Yes.
All across the globe, you have very smart people coming up every single day. Look at the study that showed that China is very aggressively recruiting people to come and teach in their own institutions. Why? Because they recognize that
there is something to be said about the American way of education.
So it hasn't come out yet, and Canada is not too far.
Yes.
But I will tell you this.
Yes.
As much as U.S. is busy kicking out all these immigrants and foreigners, Canada is on the DL recruiting the foreigners and immigrants. So why am I saying this? Because they realize something that U.S. has benefited from for a long time without publishing, which is that a lot of the immigrants coming from poorer countries, whether they be somewhere in Europe or a lot of African places, they come eager and hungry to learn. And actually some of them that come post high school, post secondary education, come with skills that you can actually find or be able to pay for inside the country. So education is important where we live, but also travel. Diversity within and without. So if you're only educating high income white people in the suburbs, well, you're doing yourself a disservice, because unless you're going to have enough of them to take care of all the jobs in the U.S. and still be able to take care of all the other people that you didn't educate that will end up being poor, then you have a problem.
Yeah, but you see, that's one of the things sometimes I wonder. I say, why wouldn't America invest in educating her children instead of importing labor from other parts of the country?
Other parts of the world.
Other parts of the world. Because think about it. It is not rocket science to know what to do. I give you an example. My children were in a school in the south suburbs where they have a computer lab. So on a computer lab day, the kids will line up to use the computer. This is supposed to last for 45 minutes. So, but the wait to get to your computer is 15 minutes. Then you log in. You got 20, 30 minutes, then you step out. This was before the tablet explosion and all that kind of smartphone and all that.
Yes.
Meanwhile, across the border, in some of the cities in India, the moment the kid arrives at 5th grade, they have a laptop to take home. Same country, same nation, same people, same space, same weather, same time zone. Yes. No, I mean, so it's absurd. And then you ask the question, what's the problem? Now,
finances.
It's not so much of finances.
State versus state.
But let's be clear about some of the politics in the south suburbs. There are holdovers from the original residents of those communities that have held down the politics of school board. So you might see a school board dominated by people of color, but they really are there as stooges. And that is the sad part, because the village where I live was all African American school board, but they couldn't think.
Without power?
No, they had power. They had power to actually get a superintendent. They were paying about 200 grand, and he was failing the kids.
And in a failing school system.
That's right.
So it's not always the government. Sometimes
it is not the government.
It is the community itself.
The community has to rise up, and that is for the parents.
Yes.
The parents got to get out of their home and go to school with their children. And that's the way I look at it. If you send your kid, you send yourself. Which means you're not just going to drop off your child or allow the child get on the bus. No, if the child gets on the bus, get on the bus, literally. You know, it's a mindset. Go follow the child to the school. Look, ask questions. Find out what the school board is doing. How they're going to spend money.
Meetings
and no, if you go to see the meetings, charade. Because they come out with some little stuff. Half of the time, everybody's nodding, yes, and then they go.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to the school, then you know what's going on, so that you don't just read what's on the paper and just agree. So when you go to the meetings, you're more informed, better informed.
And then force them not to have everything in executive session.
That's what I was going to say. Because if you've ever been to some of these school board meetings, and it's not just school board, a lot of board
community,
board meetings. Is a charade. Yes. You have a few people who decide what the agenda is going to be and decide the outcome of the agenda. And to the extent that they can move things along, everybody say aye, aye, everybody say aye, aye. They will keep going. The minute they hit a speed bump, they shut it down.
Yes.
It goes to executive session. By the time they come out,
a decision is already made.
Decision has been made.
No, or the parents have to run home because they got to go to work tomorrow.
That's
so
right.
talking their kids, you know.
Yeah. But the point you make is a very valid one. Change is never easy.
Yes.
But it behooves you as a parent, especially a parent of a child who is already disadvantaged in this system,
Yes.
to fight. Because we all love our children. Love is not in the things you buy for your children. Love is not necessarily in the things you provide materially for your children. Love of your children also means that you make sure that they get the advantages of the country they live in. Because I promise you, a lot of your neighbors who are considerably more well-to-do put their resources into opening channels for their children.
Yes.
I tell you, you will not believe the power of a $20,000 donation. What it does to open doors for children when parents want them to do that. You may not have $20,000, but you have a mouth. You are a citizen. You have a vote. You have to use what resources that are available to you to make sure that your child too gets the opportunities that are afforded in this country, America.
Yes. And one of the things I encourage parents to do is every school year, get to know your child's teacher. Send them a card in Christmas. Find out when is their birthday. Meet them face to face and have conversations with them.
They schedule parents-teachers meeting, but if you could do more than that, that's
yes.
advice.
No, it's a partnership. And why this is important is that an educated child can transcend every barrier. The way the world is today, your child is not going to be looking for jobs just in America. They're looking globally. You might be working in New Zealand, Australia, and it's vice versa. The people competing for the jobs in America are not just the people on the south side or west side of Chicago. There are people competing from all the way from Africa, Asia, South America, all over Iceland. Do you understand? And so it behoves us to really, as a community, especially communities of color, to get involved in education.
You know, something just occurred to me.
Yes.
Because if you just look at this, for the past, since this administration got into power, one of the major drives is to kick out everybody who does not belong. I would say that at least for as long as I've lived in the United States, this is the most anti-immigrant administration.
More than Reagan?
Well, I think more than Reagan, in terms of their rhetoric,
yes,
and their actions. So,
and the posture of people at the highest level.
So think about this. You're kicking out talent that is coming in from other parts of the country. You have done nothing to raise the talent that God has given you resident in your own country.
Yeah.
When the new talent is not coming and your own talent is faltering, where do you see yourself 20 years, 30 years, 50 years down the road?
Question. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's why businesses are crying. That's why the farmers are also crying and saying no.
Well, the farmers are for now, not for tomorrow. But
no, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Well, but I want to buttress what you said about meeting the teachers of your kids.
Yes.
During the school year, the kids spend more time in school than they do at home. It is a partnership. It's the best thing to do to actually create that partnership with somebody who's spending the bulk of time with them, because since they see them more than you see them during the day, maybe there is something else they see that you don't, that they could actually share with you. Or maybe there is something you know of your kid that you could tell them that will make the education go a lot smoother. So that partnership is important and will set your kid up for the best. If you dodge it because you're too busy, or if you don't make that time because you're really too busy, you're not doing your kid a great service. So make sure you meet and partner with the teachers of your students, of your kids. By the way, if you haven't noticed, I think you have, you're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM Straight Talk Radio, coming to you on WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. For those who are listening to us on Facebook only, you will actually be better able to listen to us anywhere, anytime by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. If you have an Android equipment or if you have Windows equipment, that will help you listen to us anytime. You don't always have to be on Facebook. You don't always have to watch us live. But if you get TuneIn Radio app, not only do you get to listen to this wonderful program, but you also get to listen to our other programs and a lot of African great music, and even some that are US. If you are not on Android or you are not a Windows user, you could download the WGHC 98.3 FM app from your Apple App Store, and that will allow you to do the same, to listen to us anytime, anywhere. Also, if you want to listen to this program live, but you are not connected to you're just adverse to any smartphones or computers, you could call the number 1-563-999-3221 and listen live. Also, you could actually get to all these things I'm telling you if you go to our webpage, www.wghcfm.org. And while you're there, look on the top right-hand corner. You'll see a small donate button. Click it and follow the instructions and give as you are able, because we are a public-supported radio station. We are a not-for-profit radio station. We depend on your generosity to be able to pay our bills for the antenna and the rent that we pay here. None of the staff are paid, so we're not using it just to pay people here. A lot of us are volunteers, but we use it to keep the radio station on the air, and we thank you for your wonderful generosity and donation. All donations are tax deductible because we are 501c not-for-profit organization. So you've been listening to WGHC 98.3 FM, and this is Straight Talk. We are discussing education. We started off by talking to two old boys, that's what we call them, alumni of the CKC, Christ the King College, Onitsha, in the eastern part of Nigeria. They are having a conference on July 14th, Saturday, at Oakland Hilton, where there will be fundraising to help continue to support the school that they went to make sure that it's in the top shape to continue to produce great leaders for tomorrow in that part of the world. And we also dived into education here and what it means, especially for elementary education in your neighborhoods. We've talked about what it means when a lot of money is moving from the colored neighborhoods to the affluent neighborhoods, where the kids eventually have affluenza when they get in trouble. But don't mind me. But we are talking about how does it happen that in those suburbs and even in the cities where we have poorer families, that the schools don't do as well, and what you should do as a parent to help make that better. You have to make sure that your voice is heard, that you actually go through the process and understand the school that your kids go to, partner with the teachers, help the board of education, the school board in their planning, and actually help, because everybody doesn't know everything. Help them,
and then volunteer.
Yes,
you know, if it's tutoring, if it's at parent, field trips, and I will say even work with the principals.
Yes.
Many of them are looking for people to help them, especially on the south side, on the west side. A lot of men need to step up in the schools to help provide the safety and the comfort that they need, that is needed in the schools. Because what's happening now is that, in a way, I would say that boys of color are in danger, because the school is so strict and rigidly run that any little infraction can lead to them getting not just detention, but a criminal record. And but again, a lot of it too is because of the absence of fathers in the home. But if we begin to cultivate back again that culture for education, then our communities will light up. It used to be that that African American communities I can speak for valued education even during the segregation time. Children will gather in the school, in the church.
That's why Brown went to Supreme Court.
That's right. Yes. So, parents will gather their children in church premises, one room schools, and under the trees. Some of us went to school under the tree. And for my immigrant friends who are listening to us, we shouldn't just always be looking back home also, but we should also look at the neighborhood schools here and see how we can contribute to help, empower the teachers, empower the school board, and empower the students, and create the right environment to study. And of course, I believe in funding.
Yes.
So I think the state government in Illinois passed a law that will allow for equal funding. It should be, and that's what the Indiana did. That from once the money comes into all the property tax is pulled together and is divided across the board. So everybody.
It's not based on the
income of your.
It's not prorated based on the income tax.
No, zip code.
Yes.
No. We don't have to allow segregation based on socioeconomic factors to now resegregate the schools. We should fund every school. There's no school that shouldn't be wired. There's no school that shouldn't be heated. There's no school that shouldn't have air conditioning in summer. There's no school that should be lacking in quality teacher development. And that is just universal. Like Mazu Abasi said, if we don't train the workforce within the U.S. to take jobs in the U.S., then you wonder why the jobs are going to China and other parts of the world.
And it's not just workforce, because education opens the mind further than workforce. If we're just training workforce, don't worry, we'll create computers to be able to do those jobs. But we need well-educated human beings and thinkers for tomorrow. So that's what school does for us. And not everybody is supposed to go to college. I believe that wholeheartedly. There are some people that have skills that make them skip college, and there are people that have skills that they don't teach in college, Bill Gates being one of them. So getting the basics to actually get the person set up so that you find out if they are college material or if they are beyond college, or if they need to go start a farm somewhere. Those are other skills that may not always be in the colleges. But school is important, and donation to the schools. So I know one of the musicians, what's his name, the young
Chance the Rapper.
Chance the Rapper gave a ton of money to the Chicago Public School. I think that's a call for the rest of us, as you are writing out your checks to the places that you give to this year. Maybe budget the Chicago Public Schools or your neighborhood public schools into who you are going to donate to. I don't think they're going to reject your money.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to bring up is the issue of, there's some people find it convenient to beat up teachers, or the teachers union.
Just like you go to your job and do your job, those people are at their job trying to do the best that they can with the tools they have.
My point is, of all professions in this country, the teachers are the least rewarded for their effort. Think about it, that they are the ones. There's a teacher. There are teachers somewhere who help our own president
to get where he
is now.
Yes.
I wonder what they are thinking with his performance. But
it depends on what performance you're looking at.
They groomed him to be who he became to be.
Yeah. So, but whatever way, the teachers are important.
Yes.
Well,
they are raising the next leaders, the next generation.
I have a small experience as an adjunct professor in a community college. And why this is important is because as an adjunct professor, I thought, all right, maybe they're paying me the pittance I'm getting because I'm adjunct. Until they offered me a full-time position, I didn't laugh in their face because that would be insulting. But I thought, oh my God, I was paid this about 10 years ago as a starter. At my starter job, I was offered much more than this. Why would I take this for a full-time teaching? So I know the teachers are not paid as much as we think. Whatever you're thinking they're being paid, they're being paid way less.
Yes.
So
and that's something that
and the sad part of it is that these are the people that are in the front line of seeing a lot of the inequities, that the inequality in the educational system. The teachers, upon the fact that they are not paid, I know a lot of them who will now reach into their meager pay to try to help their students.
Yes, I knew a teacher who was using the small salary they were being paid to buy all the school supplies. And I mean, before I tried teaching, I used to talk to this person and I used to ask, why would you do that? You're always complaining you don't have money. Why would you take the money that you have and buy more stuff? It's because the stuff that she needs to actually do a great job is not in the schools. And the only way to actually make sure that that job gets done is to provide it herself.
Yeah, and that also speaks to their passion.
That's the point.
A lot of the teachers chose teaching
because it's a calling.
As a calling.
Yeah.
It's not just, they're not looking for
Nobody goes into teaching to make money.
If you're going into it to make money, I think you
took the wrong job.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I think they should be rewarded. In fact, one of the school systems that I know had a benefactor that donated money into a fund, and so they used the money to be able to incentivize the teachers in the school district, so they're now able to retain some of the best talents.
Yes,
because there was a benefactor that gave money, and that's something that community school districts should also do.
Yes,
I mean, don't ask parents all the time, sell Girl Scout cookies. I don't have anything against Girl Scout
cookies are fine, but that doesn't raise the type of money that's needed.
Let the community, if we have to do whatever we got to do, let's contribute money.
I'm pretty sure that there are probably government rules about what could be done for fundraising.
Then you allow your PTNA, your Parent-Teacher Association, to do some fundraising, strategic fundraising, that could come from corporations to be able to fund extracurricular activities for the students, because it's not just some of the school works that are now lacking. Art is out of most schools, music is out, even PE is out in some of the places. So
that explains
but
a
that's
lot.
a different conversation.
It's not, because technology may drive innovation.
Yeah,
but it is the humanities, it is liberal arts that drives civilization.
And the philosophy.
When you have removed liberal art education in schools, you create a breed of people who are good technocrats without a conscience.
Yes, nerds, computer nerds.
So I think, and the sad thing, the saddest part of this is, we are the richest country in the world, bar none. If European countries that generally per capita make less than we do are able to provide quality education for every single child, isn't it a shame that we, the United States, these United States of America, are leaving our children behind?
Now, Boroboro will be with a
Well, I mean, if we are borrowing for the right things, if they were borrowing to pay teachers.
No, I'm not even saying borrowing money. We wait and get the best minds from the world. Forget about what all this anti-immigrant sentiment. Actually, the anti-immigrant sentiment is part of it is to swing to a different side.
Yes.
To try and have only skilled people immigrate to the U.S.
Yeah. So on merit. We want you on
which
merit.
is a coded word to say we don't want some people.
Come with your PhDs, you're merited enough to get in, basically.
First you need the education, then we see if you have the merit.
Yes.
So those are two different things.
Yes.
So you may have the same education as me, but by merit you're disqualified.
That's right.
Yes. So the question is, how do you quantify merit?
Yeah. So, but I mean, you're right. We should do better. We should do better.
We should do better.
And it's the more we invest in education, and what, it's not a left or right issue. This is something that Wall Street, Silicon Valley,
there are statistics that support this. The higher educated people are making are in better jobs that are giving them better pay and are living better lives compared to the people who actually didn't go that far in education.
Yes, and that is not criticizing people who didn't go to college.
No,
but the point, education, but that is received at home, and then that's institutionalized education. Those are the key things, the important things, because again, an educated community or nation is the one that can actually practice democracy to its fullest. Now, think about the impact of having a population that is not educated in participatory democracy. It is crazy. They won't know issues. They won't understand issues. They won't
have the chance to. So if you didn't have the chance to finish high school, and you are living in the city of Chicago, there is a high probability you have 2 or 3 jobs, which means you probably sleep less than 4 hours a day because you're running from one job to the other. When do you have time to think about anything else? You do your job number 1, you do your job number 2, you sleep for the 4 hours trying to catch 5, and you get up and you rush off to your next job. That doesn't give you enough time. No matter how smart you are not effective. You're not going to be effective for your family. But if that same person had some education that actually gave them a little bit more money on job number 1 so that they only have one job, you will have about 8 hours to spend with your family and still have about another 6 hours of sleep before you go to your other job. So education does a whole lot more. It's not about the thinking faculty. Some people who are very, very smart but did not get the chance to
sit down and use their smarts.
To go to school, maybe doing 4 or 5. You may be occupied by other things where you're using that brain, and for the rest of the things that you could apply your brain to, you don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
So let's look at a few examples, because we in the Nigerian community, we are very proud to point out the kids that come in and suddenly they have admission to every single Ivy League school in America, and the question is now, which do you choose? We've seen these examples in England, we've seen these examples in the United States. I, for one, do not believe that there is anything particularly special or superior about Nigeria as a country. But what it speaks to, because the flip side is that if these children were in Nigeria, they would not get that opportunity. They would not.
They were just free.
So what has happened is that their parents have come out, and because of the Nigerian tradition of investing heavily in your children, the children are able to benefit from what America has to offer. There are a lot of smarter kids sitting in porches and in street corners all over the inner city of America. Nobody has given them an opportunity to shine. And that's really the point I'm making.
The parents are busy working that they haven't had that chance. So what I mean by that is, in a lot of these families, if you actually interview the kids, you will hear that their parents were so strict that they will tell you to leave Facebook and face your book. That you should leave the video game and play, do real games on your computer that are actually educational. So they focus you on things they invest in the future by getting you away from those things that you should allow them to at least play games once in a while. But they get you away from spending your time doing all those things and focus you on the things that they know will benefit you. Because, like I said before, they have enough chance to be able to manage work and have time to manage their kids. But if these parents are busy, and some parents, Nigerian parents too, are working too hard, some of them are working 3-4 jobs, and they don't have the same opportunity. Their kids could actually do as great as the other kid that's got all the Ivy League schools and 17 other schools begging them to come with a full ride scholarship. But because they haven't had the chance to sit down and groom the kids and focus them, the kids have done what other kids have done, which is play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sports is another aspect of education that we have not fully explored. I mean, it's not a bad thing for a kid to aspire to give themselves in athletics, because I remember when we were growing up, I was just thinking about it, the amount of sporting equipment that was in my boarding school, I'm not sure they even have one racket now. I mean, we had tennis courts, we had badminton courts,
basketball courts, we had proper football fields,
soccer fields, and then we had netball, if we was for the girls.
I played basketball on a court in my school, and could you believe that I qualified for my school team because nobody cared about basketball. Everybody cared about soccer. But why I'm telling this story is I know people that came out to the U.S. just like I did and have to learn what basketball was.
Yes.
I knew who Jordan was. I knew who Magic Johnson. I knew all these people, and I was following basketball because we had the equipment.
Yes.
In my school.
Yeah, I mean hurdles. We had hurdles.
Oh yes.
We had javelins.
Yep.
We had pole vaulting, and
for inter-house. Yeah.
For inter-house sport, which is basically 2 or 3 or 4 dorms coming together.
Competing against
it was
each
big.
other. I was a long distance runner.
Then when you do the inter-school sports, and there's those school meets. The 4x400 invitational relay is
senior boys.
Senior boys.
Yes.
It's like
4x4
it's
senior
like
boys.
Ben Johnson versus.
It's the finals of the Olympic 4x100.
Yes.
I mean, these are.
And you run all this only to win a water basin?
or a cup that has been so beaten up.
That's right. But the pride of it then was to say that our school went on invitational relay and we won. And we beat so-and-so school. We beat, and half of the people running are running on barefoot. And a few of the guys who went to the National Academic Athletic
have a proper running shoes.
Yes, they have
the superstars.
And the superstars. I remember one of our guys went to the national competition and he won. So he came back with a starter. So what?
When he puts it up, don't come near this.
No. The thing is the ceremony to be able to place the starter. There's a junior boy that now carries the starter to the pitch, to the field, and then he will walk in majestically, take it down, and then measure it, knock it down. Everybody say this one. But
again,
that was the fun.
You go back exactly to where the conversation
where we started.
This is what Ndigbo do best.
Yes.
When you put a competition in front of them, give them a challenge to rise to, and they rise.
Yes. And it was a beautiful thing. Soccer, I mean, you had the junior academicals, you had the mosquito team in the under 4-8, then you had the intermediate and then the senior.
I remember academicals. This was 1970.
Yes.
Or maybe 70. I can't remember what year, but right out of Biafra.
Yes.
Where you have people like Ilodibe and the rest of them, white top, white pants, that people died.
Yes.
To say these boys, and they had soccer.
And they were not playing in fields that are synthetic fields.
No. Bare feet with grass that you cut yourself.
Yes. But that is the legacy. You see, that was when we had a process.
Yes.
Because out of that village school, 2 or 3 boys emerged that now go to the local government.
And they get scholarships
and they
sometimes
move to the state.
Community sponsored.
From the state, they go to the national.
Yes.
And that's how they are discovered. So there was a pool.
A process.
A pool of children coming through in every area, 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters, 800. And when they have national festivals, of course, you know how Bendel State then used to be
Bendel
very
State
good.
used to be excellent. Yes,
Because
they had a very good sporting program.
Yes,
absolutely.
Especially in swimming, which
yes,
most of the other states lack.
They live by the water.
That's
so.
right.
Yeah, well, but so does Rivers State. So does Rivers State. In fact, if you ask me, Bielsa,
Yes.
was Bielsa in Rivers or in Bendel?
It was in Rivers.
Yeah, it would be in Rivers. Talk of swimmers. No, the
Yeah.
point is that
They put some
Bendel
effort.
State had a very robust sports program
Yes,
that groomed people from tot to adult,
yes.
and it showed.
Yes.
They dominated the sports scene in Nigeria.
But
then.
now, most of the people who play for Nigeria in most international competitions
Come back from
they come out.
abroad.
They are trained outside.
Yes.
Because the country no longer invested
Actually,
in those things.
these are people who are representing Nigeria because of their parents or because of.
Yep. You know, so and that is sad.
Yeah.
You know, because homegrown athletes are part of also the way it's something.
It's part of education.
Education,
Yes.
You know, but again, thank God that with the leadership of Anambra State, that I believe that the Igbo agenda will be moved forward.
Yes.
For as we continue to invest in education.
So going back to where we started with the CKC Old Boys Association, Alumni Association, this is what it is that they're doing. They're investing back to the school that actually gave them a leg up, so that other people will get the same.
That's
and in
right.
so doing, they're growing that community.
That's right.
And this is them throwing out the competition gauntlet to all the other alumni. If you haven't started with your alumni to invest back in the lives of the school that gave you something, start doing it now. And also, we're saying it's not just go back home. We're also saying in the communities where you live in the U.S., invest your time, invest your resources, make sure you know the teachers, help the school district, and make sure that also you're raising the level of the competition and the school spirit in those places, so that we could grow a better U.S. as we grow a better Nigeria.
Yeah, because
immigrants have things to teach the community they migrated to.
Yes.
Yes. Everybody.
And then onye amaro ibezim.
That's the point.
Yes. That is a concept the Igbo understands. You know, you learn from
you have your inherent wisdom and you bring it and you pull it together and you make magic.
Yes.
It was my privilege to share what a logarithm table was when I got here. And how we use it. So, I mean, but I was just trying to make a joke about what immigrants have to teach the community.
Yes. No, and like Manzo Abbas said, there's a school in India that everybody is recognizing has one of the best science schools.
Education.
Now, somebody should have walked back to India to say, how come when the dot-com boom came and Silicon Valley was in need of software engineers and programmers, how come they went to Asia? Yes. How did that happen?
Well, they went to Asia, but where did they end up? Now, a lot of these software are coming out of India. A lot of the outsourcing is going to India now.
Because when they came, they went back to Mumbai. And they rebuilt Mumbai, and they now created it as an outsourcing base. But my point is, there was somebody who had the vision to start investing in science, math, education in India. STEM, that produced a lot of science, mathematicians
and 30 years down the road,
computer scientists, when the world needed them, they showed up. Yeah. Now, people will not tell, today, the president is being celebrated. He went to North Korea.
He did great.
That's fine. But somebody also tried to open up Cuba. And why was that important? That Obama took the steps that he took to allow Cuba to normalize relationship. Because there are certain things that Cubans have done well. All over the world.
Medical tourism.
They've developed, they have the highest number of physicians produced, and Cuban doctors are known to be very good. During the Ebola crisis, if they didn't show up in Sierra Leone and Liberia, we don't know where we would have been. And they're doing great work in the Caribbean, and they're doing some great work in Angola and other parts of Africa. So Cuba is actually exporting labor. And that's something talent. And that's something that, communities in Nigeria, especially an Igbo, we can do successfully. If we have more engineers than we need, we'll find communities in the Caribbean, communities in Europe, in South Africa, East Africa that might need them, and we send them to those places. Because again,
that's a good segue to our next Saturday conversation that comes to you at 9 to 10 p.m. and sometimes we carry on to 11 p.m. So listen to us this station at this Saturday, 9 to 11 p.m., where we will discuss
9 to 11 p.m.
Oh, shoot. I was talking about Tuesday. 4 to 5 p.m. Okay. Sometimes we go till 6 p.m. So 4 to 6 p.m. next Saturday, we come to you where we talk all things Africa, especially Nigeria. So we will discuss in more detail what Mazio Delega was talking about. But we have a minute, so Mazio Vasi, yes. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are we've talked about education. Any society that does not invest in the next generation is a society doomed to fail. We've looked at Nigeria. We've also looked at the United States. It'll be a shame that we ran away from Nigeria and came to America only to see America fail because of the short-sightedness of a few politicians. So let us do the needful.
Mazio Delega.
Ebonye bi kona wachi. Obiabonye abiabunia. We are products of a solid educational system that worked for us in Nigeria out of our neighbor. And so we want to also give it back not just to our new and adopted home. And it's frustrating to see that within local communities, people do not see the value of imbibing other ideas in order to move forward, especially in the educational arena. But, the journey just began.
And for me, don't just blame Bessie DeVos or the president or the administration or any of your state government. Yes, they do hold some blame on what's happening to education, but the journey to fix education starts with you. Get involved with the school system that you find yourself in the communities that you live in. Make sure you know your school. Make sure you know the teachers to your kids. Make sure you are actually helping. If you can't give money, give time. If you can't give time, give a voice. So the more we do to help the education system, whatever we put in it is what we get back. Good
night. Good night.
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM.
Why yo, but we are nothing's friend from the first time.